Hey everyone, sorry it's a little dark. I am home. I worked last night and I'm okay with dark. Um, so I wanted to touch base. I'm trying to do videos at least once a week. And this week is a big week because one, it's Easter on Sunday. And so we're going to be celebrating that. And then also Sunday is April Fool's, which is one of my favorite holidays. I guess you would call it a holiday. And then it's also Color the World Blue Day. So make sure you wear your blue on that day. Post a picture to my Facebook page and tag me in it. Um, you don't have to if you don't want to, but just put color the world blue. Um, or if you want to make up your own hashtag, that's fine too. Um, but just wanted to remind you about that day. April 12th, there is a walk in Towanda, Pennsylvania. It starts at um, Hurley's Supermarket in the plaza, and it goes to the courthouse. There's going to be guest speakers, myself included, on that day. So make sure that if you are local in that area, you attend that. That would be a really good thing for you to attend. If you're a survivor of abuse, you're asked to wear a red t-shirt for the walk if you plan on walking in the walk. So yeah, that's the announcements, I guess. Um, I wanted to pick up a little bit where I left off on my last video. I left off where I was 6 years old. I had been abused for the first time, and how my mom had kind of reacted to that, how she responded, and I touched base a little bit on how it affects me now as an adult. I do not talk to her because of that situation. She broke my trust when I was 6, and because of what she did. If you need a refresher, or if you haven't seen that video, you can go ahead and watch it. I think it's called My Story Part 1. So I'm going to name this My Story Part 2. Um, After that situation, I again never trusted her again. We went through many issues throughout childhood, and I say we as in my sisters and I, but I'm going to speak for myself. These videos are strictly myself. If my sisters decide that they wanted to do something, that would be up to them. Um, so, moving along a little bit, shortly after my mom was with that guy, um, we she ended up dating another man, and they ended up eventually getting married. This man was abusive. He, at first, again, just like the first one, seemed all right, was very nice to us, a little too nice, if you know what I mean. And then, but we were kids, we didn't really know what that meant, or we didn't really think anything of it. Um, it started with me when we were younger, and he used to chew chewing tobacco, and he used to always make us give him a kiss goodnight before we went to bed. Right away off the bat, before he and my mom got married, it was, you will call him daddy, and we were pretty much told that's what you're gonna do. And at this point, you don't argue with her. You're too scared to death to, because now up to this point, she has begun the physical abuse. She has begun the mental and emotional abuse. She kept us from our father. Um, like if we did something that she didn't approve of, or if we did something that she did not like, she would ground us, but our groundings weren't like losing our Xbox, or not, there weren't Xboxes back then, but losing, our games and things like that. It was more of, well, you're grounded, you're not going to your dad's house. My dad was a very big protector of us girls, and I feel like that's why he wasn't able to protect us as much as he probably wanted to. Um, so back to this man that she's now married to. Um, he would always make us give him a kiss goodnight before we went to bed, and goodnight, daddy, blah, blah. When he was chewing tobacco, he would have the spit in his mouth, and he would spit it into our mouth. Till this day, the smell of chewing tobacco absolutely grosses me out. Um, I don't even like it when somebody opens a can of it near me because it reminds me of that stuff. Um, we lived in a house where, um, like we had an upstairs and there was a downstairs, and their bedroom was downstairs. At this point, my little sister, she was born with a lot of medical issues, and she was on like a CPAP machine. It would beep and go off every so often, and I would help with the buttons and pushing the buttons and making sure she was okay. At this point in time, this man started to sexually abuse me at this time. Um, I I remember the very first time my mom was not home. We had a babysitter at the time. I mean, she was a babysitter, but she also came and like helped my mom clean the house and stuff like that. And I remember I had wanted milk, and it was summertime, and my mom had told her, "Don't let her have milk because it's summer; it'll curdle in her stomach." And I remember I had kind of thrown a fit because I really wanted milk, and this lady finally gave in and she said, "Well, I'll go to the store and get some milk," and she left me with him. And that's the very first time that he had sexually molested me. Um, and up until probably about 8 months ago, some of this stuff was kind of a black blob for me. I pushed a lot of it back in the back of my mind. I forgot about it. December 2016, I had a concussion, I had a head injury, and I decided that I wanted to go to some therapy to try to deal with some emotional things I was dealing with because of that. And the therapy actually kind of backfired on me, and it brought out a lot of the stuff I tried to push back in my mind. And it made me remember pretty much. And honestly, I don't think that was a good thing. Um, so that was this situation in that house. The very first time that he had done it to me was one of those things I had pushed in the back of my mind so that I could forget. I didn't want to remember that that even happened to me. Um, I remember when we had moved to a different house. We moved around a lot too. That was a very familiar thing for us. But we had moved to a new house, and um, I mean, this became like a weekly thing at one point, and he would molest me, he would touch me, he would grab me, um, and do things, and he would always tell me things like, "Well, don't tell your mom, or I'll kill you in your sleep. Um, if you tell your mom, I'll make sure you never see your dad again." At one point, I remember there was a situation where I knew what was going to happen, and I had asked to call my dad, and he said, "No, you're not calling your dad." And when I went to go grab the phone to try to call my dad, he had actually taken the phone and unplugged it and hid the phone on me. Um, my dad, till this day, doesn't know those things, and I try to keep some of this stuff from him. And he's 76, so he's never going to see these videos, um, which I don't want him to. That would probably kill him. So that was a situation with her husband at that time. When I became, I would say probably 10, um, maybe I was younger than that. I don't remember the exact age. But when I was younger than that, I do remember that they split up because he was caught molesting one of my sisters, and he had gone to jail for that. Um, he was never charged for anything he did with me, just like the first one was never charged. My mom went and dropped the charges on the first one. My dad did file charges on the second one, but she went and dropped the charges on him as well. I was deemed a liar, which made it very difficult later in life when I spoke up again against other people, because then I just looked like I was the attention-seeking child. I was made to look out like I was a liar. I was just a conniving little child. There's other words that she's used towards me to describe what I was as a child. Um, and I've come to terms that that's because I ruined her fun. because I spoke out. And I'm not going to remain silent. And I've said this over the last couple years that I will not keep quiet about what happened to me because people need to hear this. You need to know that it happens. I know there's people I went to school with who have seen my videos, and I've had them actually walk up to me. I've had people that bullied me in school walk up to me and say, I had no idea. I am so sorry. And they've apologized to me. And I mean, I wouldn't say that we became friends, but like if we see each other in public, we'll talk to each other. I do have some of them on my personal Facebook page, and like, we share pictures of our kids and stuff like that. And we like each other's picture and comment on it, but those bullies that were bullying me in school would have never um, would have never even given me the time of day as an adult because they would still remember them bullying me. Um, so that's one of the things as an adult that I deal with. Uh, when the second husband went to jail, I remember that she still wrote him. She still visited him in jail. They eventually ended up getting divorced. Shortly after, she remarried again. Um, this man that she remarried, so the third husband, they were together for quite a long time. Actually, until after I was an adult, they were together and married. They married fairly quickly. And he was an abuser. He was an alcoholic. They both did drugs. I remember a lot of different things, and this is where the abuse really started to pick up. I remember children and youth would come to the house. She would know when they were coming. She would make sure the house was clean. She would make sure we knew exactly what to say. We had counselors that would come in. We always put on this nice little show for when the counselors came in. And it seemed like we were one big happy family. Everything was fine. Nothing was happening. Um, and I think I kept quiet mostly out of fear because I was afraid that if I said anything and they did not take me out of that household right that second, which they couldn't legally, um, then I feared that she would kill me or she would beat me so badly. Like, I was so scared to death of what she would do if I said anything. And they did not take me right then and there. So I kept my mouth shut, and I didn't say a single thing. So that is why I kept silent as a child, because I was helpless. I was a helpless little child. There wasn't anybody around. All of my mom's friends who would have seen something, who could have reported something, were just as bad as she was. Um, they were, drug users, alcoholics. They had their own kids that they abused. Like, it was one big, like, cult almost of abusers that I grew up around. Um, and there was nobody that could protect me. My dad, he tried his hardest, but when she wasn't allowing him to see us, how was he able to protect us or do anything about it? And he did try as hard as he could, and I know he did. Um, so after she married this last one, on her wedding night, her husband's her husband's brother, actually, this is the first time I was sexually abused, involving this man that she married and his family and whatnot. Her husband's brother had grown pretty fond of me, and I mean, he was nice. Like, I had gone to his house a few times with my sisters and my mom and my stepdad, and we had, had dinner there and stuff. He had come over to our house, and everything seemed fine. I didn't get any of those vibes from him like I did all the other ones. Um, but I remember she had said that their wedding night I was going to go spend the night with him and his girlfriend at the time. And in the morning he had talked about he had plans. He was going to take me for breakfast and then bring me back home, and then that was going to be that. And so I didn't think anything of it. So I went with him that night, and I still had my wedding dress on that I had worn to my mom's wedding. I still had my wedding shoes. I remember the shoes because, well, we'll get later on in the story. But I remember the shoes I remember exactly what I was wearing, and that night he and his girlfriend sat on the couch. We were watching TV, and he had a kitten. I remember he had a kitten, and I was petting the kitten, and he started like gently rubbing my leg, and she started like putting her arm around me and rubbing my shoulders, and I just started to feel really uncomfortable very quickly. So like he started rubbing my leg from like the bottom of my leg, like my ankle up to my knee, and then he would try to start like moving up. Well, I pretended like I was gonna fall off the couch, and then I like made myself fall off the couch to like kind of distract or whatever, and I said I have to go to the bathroom. And I went to the bathroom and I locked myself in the bathroom, and I remember hearing them talk out there, and when they were talking, I couldn't understand what they were saying, but I remember they got quiet, and I had to have been in there quite a while. And um, I finally got up the nerve to open the door and peek out, and all the lights were out, which scared me to death even more because I had no idea where they were at. Um, and I started to kind of walk, and I went to go grab my bag that I had with me. And I remember distinctive, I can't talk because I'm really tired. I remember specifically thinking I should take the kitten because I didn't want the kitten to be there. And I was like, no, I just need to get out of here. So I went and I unlocked his door because his door was locked. And I heard him talk, and he said, Jesse. And I panicked, and I went back to go to the bathroom, and I locked myself back in the bathroom, and I heard his girlfriend get up, and she had walked out to the front door. And I thought, oh my God, she just locked me back in here. And what am I going to do? How am I going to get out of here? Um, at this time, I want to say I was 8 or 9 years old, possibly. So that's something like my oldest kid is 6. So that's not far off from how old she is, and I can't even like I would when I think of like her feeling that way, it scares me and it upsets me because I remember how I felt, and I know every day there are kids that feel this way, that go through things like this. Even today, I'm almost 30, and I know that kids these days go through things like that. So it really upsets me. Um, but so I remember after she had done that, it got quiet again. I was in there quite a while again. Um, and I had come out of the bathroom, and I I remember I thought to myself before I opened the door, I'm going to make a run for it. I'm going to run for my life and hope to God that they're not waiting behind a corner or waiting by that front door to catch me, and I'm going to make a run for it. Um, I opened the bathroom door and I heard my name again, and I said, "What?" You know, at this point, I think I was kind of getting a little angry. And they said, "Where are you going?" I said, "Nowhere." And he said, "Well, what's wrong?" I said, "You were trying to hurt me." And I remember he said, I wouldn't hurt you unless you wanted me to." And those words have stuck with me my entire life. I wouldn't hurt you unless you wanted me to. I grabbed my bag, I unlocked the door again, and I made a run for it, and I ran and I ran and I ran. He lived in a building like that they make for like the senior citizens with all the apartments. There was probably 3 or 4 floors. There was an elevator. The door to get out was like you can go out, but once you're out, you can't get back in unless you have like a key or whatever, or like I don't think they had the cards back then, or maybe a code. But I knew that if once I was out, I couldn't get back in, which was fine with me. But at that point, I didn't know where I was going or who I was gonna see. I knew I was running out to like the town, and I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anybody's phone number. I wasn't taught like my dad's phone number to call. I wasn't even taught like how to call 911. So I didn't know what I was going to do once I got out of that building, but I knew I had to get out of that building. I ran to the elevator the whole time. I was scared to death that he was behind me or she was behind me. And I remember I had gotten out of the building, and across from the building was a um, grocery store. And I remembered the night that my mom had sent me, which I thought was odd, and I know now it's definitely odd, is she had given me quarters to put in my bag. And she said, if I need anything, there's a phone across the road at the grocery store. You can call me. So I feel like she knew what was going to happen, and she sent me anyway. Um, and I remember I had gone over to that grocery store looking for this payphone that she had talked about, and I did not find it. On my way through, I had gone through a parking lot where there was a truck driver who was loading up something that he was delivering or whatever, and he had seen me run through the first time, and I'm sure the truck driver's thought process, because this had to have been like 1, 2 in the morning, was why is there a little kid running through my parking lot? So I had gone back remembering that I had seen him, and he stopped me. Like, he ran up to me as I was running back, because I was just running aimlessly at this point, just trying to find anybody or a phone or something. And he said, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And I just kind of yelled. I said, I need to call the cops. I need to get out of here." And I just started blurting everything out, which was odd for me because I kept very quiet about everything that was happening up until that point. Um, so he took me inside the building and he called the cops. The cops came. They took a police report. They brought me to the police station. They called my mom. My mom met me there, and again, like always, we have to make an impression. So we're crying tears of, I can't believe he did this to you, and we're gonna get this taken care of, and I want to file a police report, and I'm gonna back her every step of the way. I'm gonna get her into some counseling. Um, and the police took the report and whatnot, and I had gone home, uh, and I remember a couple weeks later, I was walking across the road to go to, there was a Dandy Mini Mart, and my mom had sent me across to get some candy for my sister and I. And I had gone over to get the candy, and on my way back through, I had looked both ways, and there was a car that was supposed to stop at a stop sign, and they didn't stop. And they hit me with the car. So I was hit by a car, and I went flying. I was in the hospital for a couple days for observation. I had sprained some muscles and stuff like that, and I went back home, and I remember I had gone back to school like shortly after. I wasn't out of school that long, and I remember sitting in the cafeteria, and a teacher had walked up and said, "Hey, they need to see you in the principal's office," and she kind of pointed towards the entrance of the cafeteria. And I looked over, and there's my mom standing with a state trooper, my guidance counselor, and my principal, and my homeroom teacher. And I kind of like, well, what's this all about? And I walked up, and we went to the office, and they started asking me weird questions like if I had ever thought about harming myself. They started asking me like, how do you feel about, I don't know, all the questions, but pretty much in a long about way, they're trying to ask me if I was feeling suicidal. Um, my mom had gone and told the counselors and everybody that I was suicidal, so they sprung into action and came and got me out of school. The next thing I know, I'm being rushed to the hospital. They're asking me questions, and at this point, I'm kind of like, this was like a really scary situation for me, and I knew that it can only get worse from here. And I had to say something. I didn't care if it made me look like I was crazy or not. I told those doctors whatever they needed to hear to get me out of that house. And I told them, "Yep, I hear voices. Yep, I think about killing myself all the time. Yep, I want to take pills." Um, I told them everything I could just to get me out of that house. Um, they sent me to a children's psychiatric hospital. I was there for 2.5 weeks. Um, and it was around Christmas time. I think it was like the day before Christmas Eve, to be exact, of that year, that I had gone back home with my mother because she had sweet talked all of the therapists, everybody, into letting me go home with her. Pretty much had told everybody my dad was not able to take care of me. I had to go there. As long as I was on the right medication, she would be able to take care of me. And I was on the right medication, all right. I was on the right medication to make me completely doped out of my mind, so I didn't know what was happening to me. She played that game and manipulated that game all in her favor, to the point where she had me drugged because everybody thought I was crazy. And she got me back at her house. So that's where I'm going to leave off today. I definitely have to go get some sleep, and my kids are calling for me. But everybody have a good day. Please, please, please remember, color the world blue. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. Make sure that you like my, or actually friend request my Just Says page. And if you're not a part of the support group and you'd like to be, it's under Adult Survivors of Abuse, I believe is the exact wording. It just started the beginning of this month, or the middle of this month. So if you're not on there and you'd like to be, please make sure you request to join that. And if you have any stories, I would love to hear everybody's story, even if it's just brief or whatever you're comfortable with, or if you have any kind of personal experience. It doesn't necessarily have to be you that's the survivor, but if you have any kind of story, whether it be siblings, just the only thing I ask is please don't put any personal names into these stories, as I like to protect everybody's identity with the way the internet is, and also I don't want anybody to see their name on the page and get upset about it, because this is their story too. It's their personal information, no matter how you feel about them. Notice I won't ever list or say my mother's name in any of my videos. I won't ever list or say any of my siblings' names, or my children's names, or my husband's names. I would like to keep everybody's identity private. If you would like to say your own personal name, that's perfectly fine. But please, please, please leave everybody's name, personal information out of your videos or your stories. I just do that. I just ask that out of respect for everybody else. I hope everybody has a good Easter, and I know I'm going to be working, but I will be still having my Easter dinner with my kids, because the show must be going. Third shift talk right there. The show must be go. The show must go on, just like every other thing in life. So everybody have a good day and a good week, and I hope to post a new video next week. See you later.